Hello, and welcome to today's webinar on downtown development authorities as developers, presented by the Georgia Municipal Association and Georgia Cities Foundation. I'm Perry Hyatt, Director of Community and Economic Development for the Georgia Municipal Association, also known as GMA. I also have the pleasure of serving as Managing Director for the Georgia Cities Foundation, a nonprofit community development financial institution whose mission is to assist cities in revitalizing downtown areas throughout Georgia. Today's program is the first in a series of planned webinars focusing on the roles of downtown development authorities in Georgia and how they can be utilized to act as developers. Today's presenters are Stephanie Aylworth and Chris Higdon, who are both on the staff of the Georgia Municipal Association. Stephanie serves as GMA's Downtown Development Manager, and she is also the Program Manager for the Georgia Placemaking Collaborative. Prior to coming to GMA, Stephanie served as the Main Street Manager for the City of Douglasville, Georgia, and most recently as the Economic Development Director for the City of Powder Springs, Georgia, where she staffed both the city's Development Authority and its Downtown Development Authority. Chris serves as GMA's Community Development Manager, and he is also the Loan Program Manager for the Georgia Cities Foundation, where he works closely with DDAs and their staffs in cities throughout Georgia. Both Stephanie and Chris serve as regular presenters in GMA's Basic Downtown Development Authority training program, and we appreciate their efforts in developing today's webinar. At this time, I'm going to ask Chris to get us started.
Thank you, Perry. We are excited to bring you the first episode of this new webinar series. As listeners will know, municipalities have restrictions on how they can develop and dispose of property in Georgia. This is one of the reasons that development authorities exist. Over the years, we have seen numerous successes where DDAs have acted as developers or taken on roles in public-private partnerships or acted as conduits between the public and private sector. It is because of these successes that we decided to create this webinar series. It must also be said that before taking on any of these projects, please consult with your city and/or DDA attorney.
Downtown development authorities are used in cities throughout the state as a mechanism to revitalize and redevelop municipal central business districts. We are now going to be discussing the purpose of downtown development authorities. Because DDAs are regulated by state statute, they can provide a measure of protection to cities who work through and with their downtown development authorities. An example of this would be that cities are not liable for their DDA's debts or contracts. DDAs also have very unique powers that are granted by the state that cities don't have. An example of this would be that they can acquire and lease and dispose of properties. Cities do not have these same powers when it comes to acquisition or disposal of property. They're very limited by the state as to what they can and cannot do. The primary purpose of the Downtown Development Authority is to complete projects. DDAs are charged with the redevelopment of their service area and with completing very specific projects. An example of this would be the acquisition and renovation of a downtown property for target business recruitment and expansion. Another example would be the implementation of a downtown master plan, components of a city's comprehensive plan relative to the downtown, or maybe the implementation of an LCI. Because of the Downtown Development Authority's purpose and powers, they have a lot of potential. And one of the things that really comes to mind is that their main focus is on their mission and their projects, not the burdens of local government. So board members have the opportunity to get in there and solve problems for their downtown and engage in sustainable redevelopment. We will now be discussing some of the powers of the Downtown Development Authority as they're outlined in the Georgia Code. Some of these powers include redevelopment of a municipality's defined downtown service area, the ability to complete downtown projects, the ability to enter into contracts with private developers, businesses, enter into intergovernmental agreements, and memorandums of understandings with the local municipality. Other powers include the acquisition of property and rehabilitation, the ability to issue bonds, the ability to create and offer incentives, to accept and issue grants and loans, and to create and amend their bylaws. These are the most frequently utilized powers of a downtown development authority. Because downtown development authorities are charged with revitalization and redevelopment of central business districts, it is important that the city's redevelopment goals and the mechanisms for financing those goals are clearly defined before engaging the DDA in any projects. A few ways that downtown redevelopment goals can be determined and defined are through a city's vision and strategic planning session, their comprehensive or master plans, by completing a target business analysis or business needs assessment, and engaging in community input sessions or charrettes. Some of the more common and overarching redevelopment goal categories for downtowns include increased commercial tax space, workforce development, increased density and walkability, downtown sustainability, and historic preservation.
There are many benefits to the DDA serving as the lead downtown developer. These city and DDA partnership projects can help create the desired downtown business mix, as well as target desired businesses and industries throughout the downtown. Downtown building rehabilitation, infill, and aesthetic projects can help revitalize areas of your downtown, and all these projects can help implement components of your downtown master plan and comprehensive plan. Additionally, these projects can help promote tourism and recreation throughout your downtown. Now we will take some time to highlight future sessions in this series. In the session titled DDAs as Visionaries and Agents of Change, we will look at a case study in which a DDA, in partnership with its city, entirely transformed the vision of their downtown. This episode will demonstrate how a DDA, through extensive planning, in partnership with the city, can be a powerful agent of change. In this case, changes include utilization of existing and new public and private assets, the expansion of their downtown footprint, planning for and connecting new and existing housing, as well as embracing growth and cultural change in the community. In the session titled DDAs as Recruiters, we will explore how a downtown development authority can target a specific industry. In this case study, we will see how a downtown development authority, in partnership with its city, was able to attract a restaurant to a specific space within its downtown. In this case, the DDA acquired a building, retrofitted the building to meet the specific use, and was able to successfully attract a restaurant in a way that the city government could have never done. The approach used in this case study could be used in other cities to attract restaurants, breweries, distilleries, office space, or whatever is in the plan for the downtown. In DDAs as Land Speculators, we will provide a case study in which a downtown development authority, again in partnership with its city, has acquired a large parcel of land and its adjacent structures. This case study will show how their phased approach to development of this area fits within the DDA's short, medium, and long-term plans for development. This session also includes targeting specific industries. In DDAs as Marketers, we plan to bring in a statewide expert on downtown development and marketing. DDAs take on many roles and are often responsible for creating and maintaining the public image of the downtown. In addition to marketing downtown events, DDAs are responsible for the brand that is their downtown. In this episode, we will look into creative ways where DDAs can influence and create that brand. Sometimes DDAs may be the developer of last resort. In DDAs as Rescuers, we'll look at one of these examples. If a building or section of downtown is damaged by a natural disaster, such as a hurricane or a fire or a structural failure, poor maintenance, or closure, a DDA may have to step in when the private sector does not. This case study looks at one of those examples where a downtown development authority and the city, through partnership, came in to save a large portion of their downtown, save and create new jobs, and really restore the city's downtown identity. In DDAs as groundbreakers, we will look at an example where a city and their DDA partnered to expand the size of their downtown and transformed how both residents and visitors alike can enjoy and use the space. In effect, doubling the size of their historic downtown business district. Sometimes cities have very little downtown to work with, whether it's a new city that has never had a downtown or an existing city that has very little historic fabric. In DDAs as town builders, we will look at an example of an existing city that worked with their DDA to create a new vibrant city center. In DDAs as creative financiers, we will look at tools that are available to DDAs when they take on the role of development. Downtown development authorities rarely have a way to finance their own operations, let alone finance development projects. In this webinar, we will walk participants through multiple examples of how DDAs have utilized a number of programs to finance these efforts. Examples will include property donations from the city, city-backed loans, low-interest loan programs, the Redevelopment Fund, tax credit monetization, crowdfunding, and local foundation grants. In the last of our planned sessions, DDAs as master developers, we will look at how a city, in partnership with its DDA, has acted as the master developer for their new downtown redevelopment efforts. Through careful planning and land acquisition, this case study will show how they were able to influence the entire development of their downtown through public-private partnerships and development.
The last segment in this introduction webinar is Keys to Success. Downtown development authorities have autonomous powers that enable them to assist the city in actualizing downtown vision and redevelopment goals. It's important for cities to have defined and detailed partnerships and also agreements with their DDAs to ensure success and to outline expectations. A downtown development authority is most successful when it is working hand in glove with the city. The following are some best practices. Hosting a joint strategic planning session. This allows everyone to catch the same vision, develop a work plan, and get excited about implementation. Creating intergovernmental agreements. This is a legal document that defines project expectations and provides detailed direction to the DDA. It is particularly important when engaging in property and money transfers. Hiring consultants. Consider bringing in consultants to assist staff and the DDA members in accomplishing large or novel projects and goals. Consultants can offer a unique perspective and be a training mechanism by sharing their expertise and experience. Hiring a DDA attorney. It is a best practice for DDAs to hire their own legal counsel independent of the city's. This keeps all transactions and business of the DDA separate from the city and eliminates any conflict of interest, perceived or real, between the city and the Downtown Development Authority. Site visits and mentoring. Scheduling field trips, meetings, and conference calls with other cities that have successfully completed downtown development projects is a great way to inspire and create mentoring opportunities. DDA and council members can gain insider information about another city's redevelopment processes, what they did correctly or what they would have done differently. This is an invaluable opportunity that can prevent wasted time and resources as they embark on their own redevelopment projects. Reporting. It is important that communication between the Downtown Development Authority and the city is detailed, frequent, and includes an element of reporting progress. Information sharing promotes trust and confidence between the Downtown Development Authority and the city and allows for troubleshooting and creativity in problem solving.
This concludes today's webinar. I hope you found it to be informative, and I hope that you'll plan to view our future webinar sessions on the topic of downtown development authorities as developers. I would like to thank Stephanie and Chris for serving as today's presenters. Please feel free to reach out to them with any questions you might have regarding today's program. Thanks again for joining us.